All right, guys, this is day 163 of startup, and I want to cover some of the problems I experience. In fact, the problem with that whole idea of trying to raise a pre-seed stage funding. Pre-seed is where you do not even have a product or traction, and you are trying to raise funds so early. So at this stage, we do not really have any proof that this idea will eventually work out or not. It may actually fail as soon as we launch or not try to pick traction as quickly. I mean, just too slowly. And so you may decide later on that it was a bad idea. But there are investors who are actually willing to invest even in this stage. And as entrepreneurs, we have this option of trying to reach out to these investors and raise funds, and this is what I am also trying to do. But the problem I see with this approach is that many of the investors are actually business trained in MBA, so they come with an analytical, theoretically rigorous approach to see whether your business idea makes sense. So probably they will try to check the trends, what is popular, what other investors are putting money in, what series A investors are putting money in, which sectors are going up, which sectors are going down, and all kind of this theoretical analysis they will put before you even start pitching your idea. They will come with that framework in mind. But as an entrepreneur, we are in this game for a very long term, and this is the only thing that we'll be doing for the next 5 6 10 years. There will be ups and downs, and more downs than and less ups. So I think it's a very different game for entrepreneurs, and we have to really decide what is in it for us, because we are not building a portfolio. So we have to really decide what else we get from the startup other than the money, and that something else has to be some kind of satisfaction in the work itself. And we cannot have satisfaction in every kind of work. We have to really choose the work that aligns with our talents, interests. So yeah, the strategy that an entrepreneur needs to follow is just follow, like, find an intersection of your interest, talent, and what value can you create for others. So if you can align your interest with the value you create for others, I think you have a good model. Now, whether this model will take you to billions of dollars and scalable business, all of these things you can think more to align your, again, work on the same thing, align your interest with a model that can do all of these things. But definitely this whole approach is much different from the analytical approach of seeing the industry trends, choosing the sector accordingly. So probably they will not align together. So there's this investor approach, uh, and there's this entrepreneur approach, and two are like coming from a different place, so may not really come together. So now when an entrepreneur is trying to raise funds early on, he's meeting a lot of investors who have this market based approach, then it is very natural for the entrepreneur to think that he needs to change himself, or he needs to really be able to align himself with the market trends. And probably he sees his own interests and passions and whatever stuff, inclinations, as some sort of weakness. And I mean, I'm just explaining what I feel and I've felt through those meetings. So uh, it's almost like investors are pushing, I mean, they're not pushing literally, but through these rejections, we entrepreneurs get pushed towards trying to be more like machines, fitting within these frameworks, and then just doing whatever it takes at doing right things at the right time, as if you're a machine who can do whatever is needed on demand. But we are not machines, we are humans, and we are motivated to do certain things, we are demotivated to do other things, something scare us, something excite us. So so that's the problem, I think. So okay, so summarize, I think the problem is that the entrepreneurs lose touch with what interests them and slowly move towards something which is very mechanical. And this can work for some time, maybe a year, maybe less than a year, till there's a honeymoon period. But as soon as the reality will hit, then I think it will go down. So this is all future projection. This is my thought, my own thought. I'm not really at the point where I can say that what I'm thinking is right or wrong. There are people who are much smarter than me who can give their opinion, but this was a more of a thought experiment for me. But to close this, I do have an expert opinion from Y Combinator on similar lines. In fact, they have a whole video on why entrepreneurs should not think like investors. So I'll just put snippet from that video next.
I think the last thing that I see a lot is that when you think like a VC, it is easier to get positive feedback from VCs. You know, when you pick an idea because it's the hot thing on Twitter, it's easier to get meetings.
Yep.
When you talk about companies using VC language, when you show some market slide that says this market is da-da-da-da, right? Like investors are responding to that. And I think that's confusing to founders because, I mean, investors can respond to things that aren't good.
Yes.
In fact, wouldn't we say that's most of what they're responding? Like that's our job, is like most investors bet on things that don't work.
Yeah. I mean, that is the job.
Yeah.
And again, one way to detect this is that you spend all your time paying attention to fundraising trends.
Yes.
And the way you come up with a startup idea is to read what is raising money and then clone the thing that is raising the most money.
Yeah.
And that's the algorithm.
And then maybe raise some money and then what?
Yeah, like that is an algorithm we see a lot from this type of thinking, which is all of these companies raise money, I'm going to do it too. And we're just suggesting we've seen that not go well a lot of the time.